Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1. Not exactly a great day of football for Manchester United, but also perhaps not as bad as what it could have been, and I think what we all expected it to be. So a bit of a weird one to try and react to. We only lost 1-0, we were in the game for large parts, and I actually felt we were the better team at times. So let's take a look at what happened. Let's take a look at things from a tactical point of view, because like I said, United actually done well for large parts of this game. And it came from the fact that United at times were able to play out from the back, which was helped by the fact that Arsenal were quite passive in their approach, I felt at times. So United could move the ball in these areas. We done so using a slightly different shape to usual. Onana at times on goal kicks would move to the left-hand side, like so. And Casemiro is going to drop in almost as like a right-sided centre-back. Johnny Evans is then going to push a little bit further forward. Kobbie Mainoo is going to do the same, and Amrabat is going to be the solo pivot. The question is, why are United looking to do this? We're trying to move the Arsenal players into different positions. The idea being this. Dallow's going to start high as well. I should add that. So, the idea is that Havertz is going to come forward towards Casemiro like so, and Odegaard is going to come towards Sophie and Amrabat, but also be used to at times press a little bit higher as well. Thomas Partey and Declan Rice are going to go man for man in our midfield. But the key here is Evans slowly making this movement into this area, because as Johnny Evans moves like this, Saka comes in towards him, because they can't just leave Evans completely free. This then means that if Dalot drops deeper, he is now the free man, and we can find him and play out from the back. Well, in theory anyway, on paper. But that wasn't always the case, because Arsenal at this point would become a little bit more aggressive. Ben White would often join the press up here, and Arsenal would shift to more of a back three, going man for man across the back line. So, structurally, United have done something pretty good here. In terms of tactically, I think Ten Hag has set us up reasonably well. He's given us opportunities to play bounce passes in the midfield, particularly if Onana is patient on the ball and draws people towards him. This was a good setup. This was a good structure. The problem was, despite the good structure, we didn't actually really make the most of it at any point in the game, as we can see in situations like this. So we've got the shape, Casemiro alongside Onana, and Evans is going to make this movement a little bit further forward. He's going to move inside and take Bukayo Saka with him. Good, this is what we want to see. Diogo Dalot is then eventually going to drop into a left-back position. Again, that's good to see. We now have the potential to play out from the back. We've got this 3-2 shape with Onana between the two centre-backs. Now let's be patient and try and play our way through this, again, reasonably passive Arsenal press. But this is then where it goes wrong. For some reason we go long. Now, I understand why you might go long, because to be fair, we can see we're man-to-man here. So if you win the first ball, get on the second ball, you enter a really good position. But it does sacrifice any chance of control. So I thought that was a bit of a weird approach from United, because once we got into that position in these deep areas, I felt we really had the potential to play out. So it was a little bit frustrating that we didn't. However, there were still times when we did play out from the back because of individual quality. Onana, very good ball player. Dalot showed some good technical moments. Same for Sophie and Amrabat. Kobbie Mainoo when he dropped in, and even Wan-Bissaka at times. It did allow us to play at times out from the back, and I think we had more of the ball in this game than what people would have expected, actually having more possession than Arsenal in the end. What did we do with this possession? Again, we changed shape as we moved further forward. So Kobbie Mainoo is going to come into this position here. Our two centre-backs are going to step up further forward, but interestingly, Amrabat isn't. More on that in a second. Wan-Bissaka at times is going to hold a deeper position, and at times go around on the overlap, and Dalot on the other side is going to invert into midfield more often than not. And it gave us a shape when Amad then moves inside, which looks like it could be at times, let's move this, like a 3-4-3 diamond. Like so, that could be the shape at times. Or it could be more of a 3-2-4-1 shape, with McTominay and Amad in the half spaces. Of course, at this point, Arsenal are going to get much more men behind the ball. They're not going to be as crazy in this sort of shape. They're going to drop into more of a 4-4-2 at times even more of a 4-5-1. Arsenal, again, weirdly passive in this game. I feel that they were just conservative more than anything. They felt that if they sat deep, we wouldn't be able to break them down. And I guess as it turns out, they were actually right with that assessment, so fair play to Mikel Arteta. But it was good to see Amrabat playing between the two centre-backs. This was something we spoke about when he was signed for the club. The ability, if we quickly move this forward, the ability to get into these sorts of positions here in between the two centre-backs. I like to see this, particularly with Kobbie Mainoo at times then drifting just in front of them, like so, creating this 3-1 shape. I like to see this. It was good to see United having that retention approach to the game. That was really good to see. As we can see also, Arsenal really, really passive. And United did have a lot of the ball, and it allowed us to change shapes during the game. That is definitely not the clip we're looking for. Let's move this on a little bit. This is the clip we're looking for. It allowed us to create this sort of shape at times. This is in the second half. We can see the 2 players in a double pivot. We can then see the 4 attacking players. And then we've got Højlund up front. So on this occasion, we've got Garnacho and Ahmad out wide. Dalot and McTominay in the 2 half spaces. Højlund up front. It got us into good positions. We just lacked that final bit, and I will come back onto that shortly. Firstly, though, before that, I want to look at this other shape we use as well. And that was, again, the 3-4-3 diamond. So we've got the back 3. Kobbie Mainoo playing as the pivot. As this moves on a little bit, we can see the diamond shape. We've got the back 3, Kobbie Mainoo as the pivot, then 3 in front of him, creating this diamond shape, and then the front 3. Again, tactically, this is a pretty good shape from Erik ten Hag. It allowed us to progress the ball. It allowed us to overload Arsenal in key areas of the pitch. Our back 3 is going to overload at times their front 2. Kai Havertz not really able to pick up Kobbie Mainoo for parts of this game. Dalot inverting, I felt, had a really good game. I thought he got onto the ball in some really good positions. And Ahmad receiving the ball initially on the right-hand side and then coming inside. His footwork was absolutely brilliant. I loved Ahmad in his performance. And then we had McTominay in the 10. Tactically, so far, it looks good. We're getting into good areas and we're progressing up the pitch quite easily. The problem was just in the final third, we had nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, tactically, I think Ten Hag done okay here. I would have liked to see a greater persistence with playing out from the back, playing through the press, rather than going long. But when we did get the ball down and try and play football, you know, we done that. We played some good retention football. We kept the ball for large spells. I actually didn't mind our performance at all. I thought we done okay. The problem was, towards the final third, we just lacked anything really. Particularly when Wan-Bissaka's providing the width down the right-hand side. He's not going to offer you too much in terms of creativity. When Ahmad went wide, I think he done well, but he wanted to move inside with the ball, and he's coming into a crowded area. Arsenal are one of the best sides in the world in these sorts of positions in their low block. They were really difficult to get through, so we didn't have much creativity from the right-hand side, despite the bright sparks. And then the left-hand side, Garnacho against White. It was a really good battle, and Garnacho done really well for large parts of it, but the end product was just lacking. He didn't have that final bit, and also he's a little bit predictable. The second he tries to move laterally across the pitch inside, he struggles a bit more. He's quite good dribbling this way. This way, I don't think he's such a good dribbler. Coming across the pitch inside, he loses balance. He doesn't, get his low centre of gravity right, to be honest. And it can make it a bit easy to knock him off the ball and tackle him. And that was the problem that United had, because if we then look at the midfield, we're not looking at creativity here. Kobbie Mainoo is a good player, but he's not a creative player. Dalot, a good player, but he's not an elite creator. The same for Scott McTominay. We lack that ability to provide any cutting edge in the final third. So, tactically, it's good for a couple of thirds of the pitch, and it looks pretty decent overall. I would say United played alright on the ball. Nothing more than that. We played alright. In the final third, it was poor. In the first half, I didn't think we had enough proactivity from our fullbacks. Dalot's got to get round and support Garnacho much more, really commit to that overlap. I felt that early in the game, we should have tried to get more crosses into the box with McTominay and Højlund in there, but we didn't really do that until the later stages. So, on the ball, United done okay, but we lacked the ability to break Arsenal down. And I think this is ultimately what Arsenal wanted. I think Arsenal almost intentionally made it easy for us. Everyone knows by this point, we are at our best in these big games when there is space to attack, the game is open, we can transition. Normally with Bruno Fernandes and Rashford. Liverpool, for example, always suffer because of that. City suffer because of it as well. Arsenal decided, let's not give United that space. Let's sit deep, be compact, and they won't be able to break us down. That's what Arteta would have been saying, and to be honest, he was right. We didn't really break them down. We didn't really create anything. The final third play was quite poor decisions, poor movements, poor patterns. But, let's be honest, look at the squad. There's a lot of injuries. You don't expect a great creative performance from that side. You don't expect perfect patterns because we've never seen this starting 11 before. So, I think Ten Hag done okay tactically. I felt a little bit sorry for him. Again, injuries are at play here. Who's to blame for that? Conversation for another day. But, I done okay. Just lacked that final bit in the final third, and it was a bit flat in the end. A bit flat, a bit disappointing, a bit of promise, but then a kind of disappointing end.
So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFifa for 10% off when you order.
In terms of defensively, I think we saw an improved United. I think we saw a more compact United. Rather than going for a sort of half and half high press, we went into this 4-2-4 shape, which I thought was quite impressive. I thought we done well at slowing Arsenal down without pressing with great intensity. We kind of slowed them down initially through that first phase of play. And then if they were able to get through that first phase, we were then willing to drop deeper into more of a 4-4-2 mid-block. So if we can't nick the ball here, which we didn't really attempt to do, we were then happy to get into these sorts of positions, nice and deep behind the ball, very, very narrow, which is important, compact in the middle of the pitch, very narrow, very compact. And Arsenal will be saying similar things to us. You know, they done all right for the first 2/3, and then we're flat. And United do deserve credit for that once again. I think we done pretty well from a defensive point of view. I think the shape was right. I suggested on stream that we probably should go for a 4-4-2, sort of mid to low block. And we can see that here. Lots of players close to each other. Way less gaps than what we're used to seeing in the United side. And this was an improvement. This was an improvement. So the question is, if United done okay for large parts, without being brilliant, but we done okay for large parts, why did we lose? A calamitous goal. So let's take a look at that goal, because this is literally what decided the game. In my opinion, neither side done enough to win the football match. However, United and a few players in particular did do enough to lose it. Casemiro's getting a lot of stick. I actually don't think he's getting enough stick. I think he makes more errors in this goal than what people realise, but I also think other people made mistakes as well. So, we'll start with Casemiro. First of all, the ball has been played backwards towards Onana in goal. Casemiro has to make a real effort to get deep, to open up an angle for Onana to play for him. Now, eventually it looks like he does it, but if you actually watch the speed he moves at, this is not someone desperate to create the passing angle. It is awful from Casemiro. It is pathetic modern-day centre-back play. You've got to show more eagerness to be an option. Yes, eventually he ends up there, but Kai Havertz's life has been made so easy by Casemiro jogging back so slowly. It makes it very easy for Havertz to curve his run. Then we have the next problem, in my opinion. Again, the body language of Casemiro, we've got to look at it. But could Onana go into Amrabat here? Can Onana, on his left foot, he's a ball-playing goalkeeper, play into our pivot, our ball-playing pivot? We've seen this pattern already during this game. We saw this happen a few times. Can we go into Amrabat, who can then play to Casemiro? Now again, Casemiro probably doesn't want the ball if we look at him. Again, I don't know what he's doing. Why is he facing that way? You've got to be proactive. You're trying to play out from the back. I'm not too sure what he's doing. Give Amrabat the ball. I think Amrabat wants this pass. He wants this pass. We see him literally calling for it. He wants to play that bounce pass around the corner. It is possible. Then we have the next issue, which to me is a tactical issue we've had for a lot of the season. And it's the over usage of Onana's left foot. Now, Onana's left foot is one of the best left foots for goalkeepers, or one of the best weak foots, I should say. He is one of the best ball-playing goalkeepers in the world, with his short-range, medium, and long-range passing. And he can do it with either foot, but that doesn't mean you should always try to use the weaker foot. United need to stop this. We always force Onana onto his left foot, which, whilst good, is not as strong as his right. It's not as strong as his right. So this is a tactical weakness. Why do we always set the pattern up like this to force our goalkeeper to use his weaker foot? Peculiar. Most teams would get their keeper on the strong foot so they can then distribute. But we always set the pattern up this way. Weird. I'm not sure why we do it. So this is another error in my opinion. The ball eventually goes long, and as you'd expect with United, the ball doesn't stick. Now we have another problem. Casemiro is still that deep. And my question is why? Why is Casemiro that deep? But again, I don't think he's the only player at fault here, because the whole shape is wrong. Johnny Evans has to recognise also that I've got players that deep behind me. I've also got to be kind of shifting my position to account for that. Yes, ideally you want to get up and squeeze up with a pitch, but Johnny Evans is in a position here where he's still got 3 outfielders deeper than him. So Johnny Evans is not in a great position. But also Casemiro, again, it's pathetic really. It is lazy, lethargic, amateur. I expect to see this in a charity match in the 60th minute where you've got some 45-year-old bloke who can't keep up with play, is knackered and he can't really make up the ground. That's what I expect to see. Not 20 minutes into a Premier League game at Old Trafford against Arsenal. It's not acceptable from Casemiro. It's awful. It really is. And you can kind of see the issue I was talking about with the shape here. It just doesn't make sense. Then we've got the next issue. Johnny Evans eventually gets back in 1-versus-1 against Kai Havertz. And unfortunately, perhaps this is where injuries are the problem at United, because Johnny Evans is not a man you want 1v1. Yes, Havertz isn't the best dribbler in the world, but Johnny Evans is just not proactive as a defender anymore. He is, unfortunately, past it, right? He is just past his best. You don't want Johnny Evans defending 1v1 in wide channels. It's a nightmare. And the whole time, he just doesn't want to put a foot in and make a tackle. We're not talking about him here being against some athletic, pacey, powerful, dribbling winger here. We're talking about Kai Havertz, who is a great player, but he's not a 1v1 specialist. Johnny Evans never has control of this 1 versus 1 situation, and that is a nightmare for a defender. He makes it far too easy for Kai Havertz. And then we've got the next problem. I'm looking at Aaron Wan-Bissaka here. It is quite clear the run which Trossard wants to make. If Wan-Bissaka concedes this over the top of his head, it's annoying, but it's acceptable. To concede this in front of him is not. You have to defend that area in front of you. You have to. It is quite obvious what Trossard is trying to do here. But it's a typical thing of the second the attacker can see your number, you're in trouble. And Wan-Bissaka has that problem here. Trossard has got the run in front of him, ahead of him. And then there's another issue as well. Casemiro. You're a centre-back, you have to defend this area. The ball is going to come low across the box. So that is what you have to defend. Again, if the ball comes high and you concede, you kind of just have to accept it and say it's good play. You've got to force Havertz to play in the air. Instead, we leave this channel completely open for a low ball across the box. Casemiro has to be stepping to his left here. He has to be in this position here. I've realised I've marked several players there, but Casemiro just has to be there. But he's not. And again, we invite the ball across the box. Trossard gets there, in between Casemiro and Wan-Bissaka, and puts the ball into the back of the net. And honestly, that's why United lost. It's not just Casemiro. Loads of players made mistakes for that goal. There's loads of little different things. Ten Hag as well, tactically. It's a collection of errors. Overall, I think United done okay. I think Ten Hag done okay. I think tactically we were set up all right with what we had. We done a decent job. But again, it's pretty flat, right? We lost 1-0. And there's not much more to say, because this is just where we are at this season. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you make of the game? Did we deserve a little bit more? I probably felt that we did. But that's it. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.